旧它像极故乡。
Love of the Waterlily.
Love of the Waterlily.
Lovers of flowering plants and shrubs.
Lovers of flowering plants and shrubs.
Today, we see an after-hours class on traditional culture at Chu Primary School. The children are being taught the essay Love of the Waterlily by philosopher Zhou Dunyi.
My favorite is the waterlily, rising unsullied from the mud.
Bathing in the clear ripples of the pool.
Bathing in the clear ripples of the pool.
This is the oldest ancestral hall in Jiangtao village. The children are always excited to attend this after-hours class on traditional culture. For the children in Jiangtao village, learning the love of the waterlily has taken on special significance. In fact, the name of this very hall comes from the classic text. Families offer sacrifices at ancestral halls, and the halls are very important. Many are named after families. However, this one is named after a text. It is part of the heritage of the village's Zhou family. In a corner of the hall stands a stele on which the origins of the Zhou family have been written. Our ancestors are the descendants of Sir Li Yin-shi, who settled in Jiangtou-chou, Lingchuan County, on official travel. Jiangtou-chou was the old name of Jiangtou village. Sir Lian-chi was also known as Zhou Tenyi. In the genealogy of the Zhou family, Zhou Xiuwang was an ancestor of the Zhou family, descended from Zhou Dunyi. In the Ming Dynasty, Zhou Xiuwang moved here from Daozhou, Henan province. Zhou Dunyi is now a known philosopher in Chinese history. His work, Love of the Waterlily, may be short, but in it lies a deeper philosophical message. He writes, "But my favorite is the waterlily, rising unsullied from the mud, bathing in the clear ripples of the pool." This passage embodies the ideology of ancient Chinese scholars whose works have been read throughout the ages. Love of the waterlily and its teaching became a pursuit of the people because it symbolized the pursuit of purity. Descendants of Zhou Dunyi consider themselves the family of the waterlily. It is believed they will inherit the spirit of the waterlily for generations to come. A descendant of Zhou Dunyi, Zhou Xiuwang, inherited the tradition of the family of the waterlily when he settled here. He promoted the tradition of purity through love of the waterlily. His final words for the Zhou family were, "Purity brings honor."
The phrase official travel is often come across in ancient documents. People would travel on official business. Official travel is not for fun. Official travel was considered a service, yes, a service to society. Shou Danyi's descendants came to Jiangtou village. Now, their reason for settling down there, I think they may have settled down in Jiangtou village because of his personal philosophy, as well as the virtues of his descendants. Yes, both of which have been recognized by the locals.
The ancestral hall lies by the Waterlily pond, where Jiangtou the village is to produce scholars. In the Ming and Qing dynasties, the Zhou family boasted 170 scholars, 25 certified students, 8 presented scholars, and 7 Hanlin bachelors. A large number of talents is a symbol of a prosperous family. Given that the Zhou family, or the family of the Waterlily, has produced so many students and scholars in its ranks, the name is known. The family values a moral education. In the love of the Waterlily Hall, symbols teaching descendants how to comport themselves can be seen in decorations. For instance, this type of stone lion, with its smiling face, teaches descendants to remember to be open-minded. While stone carvings from character stories teach students to learn from wise men.
This ancestral hall here functions as a space for both discussing and correcting bad behavior. It also functions as a private school for students. We have classrooms up and down. I myself was born here, and I went to primary school here. I remember when we would enter, we would see all the words. We would see them on the columns, steels, and windows, teaching us profound things about our culture and teaching us how to behave.
Zhou Jihua is a college graduate from Jiangtou village. He successfully worked outside the village for many years, but eventually he came back. Now, he's a volunteer guide to the culture of the family of the Waterlily. In his eyes, the essence of the culture in the village is to be pure. And to be pure, we need to teach our children the right attitude towards learning, starting when they are young.
You won't understand it if you don't study it. You might be able to see it, but you won't understand it. And you'll be blind even with your eyes open. You'll be blind because you will not be seeing the inner truth. That is why we have to study hard and respect knowledge as well.
When Zhou Jihua was little, all children of the Zhou family were taught in the ancestral hall. The Chinese characters built in the hall's window panes made a deep impression on him.
When we would enter, we would see characters everywhere, on the columns, steels, and windows, and they taught us to behave ourselves. For example, on the window, we see the character for relative. 2 of these relative characters are in one pane. This has greatly influenced me.
In the pane behind Zhou Jihua is a traditional Chinese character for relative. Every time he sees it, he remembers how he was taught and nurtured by his elders. Other than relative, there are many more Chinese characters built in almost all of the windows. Discretion in speech teaches descendants to be mindful of their speech and not to speak out of turn. A man must be responsible and keep his word only once he has seen sense. Excellence teaches descendants they will stand out from the rest only if they're pure in conduct, revere their ancestors, and maintain a respect for knowledge. Virtue teaches descendants to be reasonable and responsible. Then they can expect to become sages with good reputations. The Zhou family learned a very valuable lesson while teaching and nurturing their young ones. Children will be pure in conduct and gain renown for themselves and the family only if they are taught to respect knowledge from a very young age.
If we trace the origins of this custom, we can see that it stems from the people wanting to find a suitable way of educating children. Some characters are built into window panes of the hall. If we look up here, we see diligence. Be diligent at work and cautious in speech. Confucius taught us not to spread ourselves too thin, and that we should be diligent workers. This secretly influences the children when they see it. This also reminds me of an ancient Chinese text called King Wu of Zhou succeeding to the throne. Now, when he was emperor, in order to remind himself, King Wu of Zhou kept aphorisms everywhere on columns, tables, and walls. Then he would not forget. Constructing paintings with characters in them may be a different approach. But at the end of the day, it serves the same purpose as King Wu of Zhou's method. You see, it creates an atmosphere where you see aphorisms everywhere. Instead of seeing things that are merely pleasing to look at, you see an aphorism. When kids see these aphorisms, they'll begin to internalize them. Then they may think they were born to be diligent. Wherever they go, they'll never forget what they saw once when they were little. Then being diligent at work will seem almost natural.
At the village entrance stands a tower built by the Zhou family. This is neither religious, nor does it serve a commemorative purpose. Instead, the tower was built to educate the people.
In Jiangtou village, the culture is very distinct. The cultivation of talent here is not merely education. Moralization is also involved, and so teaching is specifically geared toward society. As a child, my grandpa always brought me here, to the Chu Tower.
As far as the Zhou family is concerned, a man cannot be moral unless he has been taught the correct attitude towards learning from a young age. First, children should be educated to respect characters. It is for this reason the Zhou family built Chu Tower. The architectural form known as the tower was first built in the Han Dynasty and was where Buddhists stored sacred things, including relics and scriptures. The Zhou family disposed of used paper at the base, and future students were asked to remember to respect knowledge. Because of Chu Tower, children can no longer casually dispose of used paper. Instead, they are asked to burn these in front of the tower to show respect. This tradition has been passed down from the Qing dynasty. It is an important component of what the Zhou family teaches its descendants to learn from their forefathers. While teaching children, elders become more aware of teaching them the value of respect for characters and writing.
I remember when I was little, my grandfather was writing when he dropped a piece of paper on the ground. I was about to walk over it and step on it when he stopped me. I halted in my tracks, and my leg was still outstretched in the air upon hearing him. I think I was maybe about 4 or 5 years old back then, and I asked him why. And my grandpa told me that I shouldn't step on characters or I would go blind. I was scared to death. But as time passed, I feel more and more that if we step on any writings, if we trample on them, tear them up, or throw them in a toilet, that's disrespecting them. If you step on writing, you are disrespecting knowledge. And you can never acquire knowledge if you do not respect it in the first place. And without knowledge, we'll be blind with our eyes open.
With such a culture in mind, the Zhou children are taught to be moral with respect for knowledge and learning from an early age. Once children have grown up, this respect is turned into personal restraint.
When we were young, there was a wastebasket in our classroom, and it was common practice for us to throw our used papers into that wastebasket. Yes, now, when we practiced Chinese calligraphy, we were often made to write the words of the great sages in class. We would write certain maxims and truths. If we threw our papers out or stomped on them, then that would lead us to despise what was written in those papers as well. That's why we made sure we respected those papers and put them somewhere special. Some baskets even bore slogans such as "Cherish used writing paper." I think this respect for writing has played an important role over the ages in reminding children that they are also intellectuals. They are intellectuals who read books. Texts are meant to convey truths. Knowledge is lofty and therefore meant to be exalted, and so we must bear respect and love for every conduit of knowledge.
After Zhou Qihua graduated from college, he worked in the medical industry. Afterwards, he started a small business establishment. But his love for his village's culture was strong. He sought to resuscitate its traditional culture and spread the culture of love of the Waterlily. He spent hundreds of thousands of yuan to produce a film about the village. And in the process of researching on his family's culture, he returned to his home. It was there that he rediscovered the significance to his family of the maxim, purity brings honor. Reputation is important if the family is to stand strong. Zhou Qiwa's actions were strongly supported by Zhou Chengda. Zhou Chengda, at 85 years old, is quite famous in the village. In the 1980s, Zhou Chengda served as secretary in the county government. He was known to be an avid learner, conscientious worker, and man of integrity. He still has some old documents in his possession.
I still keep some of the award certificates. Here they are. These are all the certificates. Have a look.
Ah, all of these? These are credentials, and these certificates? There are so many. Oh, this is an old one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
1975? Certificate from 1975.
Now this one is the oldest.
The oldest, you say? Genealogy of the Zhou family. What can we find in here?
That there contains dates of birth and dates of death, as well as official positions of people in the family. We try to follow what our ancestor Zhou Danyi said in The Love of the Waterlily. My favorite is the waterlily rising unsullied from the mud. We try to embody the spirit Zhou Danyi always spoke of. Basically, we should be men of integrity, and officials should be honest and morally upright as well. And so we educate the next generation.
Zhou Chengda received his education in the Love of the Waterlily Hall. There he was taught the maxim, live an honest life and serve the public. The waterlily is a symbol of this maxim. Later, when Zhou Chengda began to work, he adopted the creed that states, purity brings honor, believing that maintaining an unsullied reputation matters most. In the 80s, the household contract management policy was implemented in the village. Zhou Chengda had a big family, but the amount of land they owned was small. In order to put food on the table, his son hoped to get recruited at the factory with the help of his father.
If my father-in-law did as others did, then my husband would definitely have gotten a job. His younger brother was still little at that time. Besides his younger brother, my husband also had a sister. That sister of his, my sister-in-law, was a farmer in the village, so she could not leave.
Back then, Zhou Chengda could have recommended his son to the factory recruitment and have arranged a job for him as well. But he thought that in doing so, he would be abusing his power for selfish reasons. Zhou Chengda forbade his son from taking part in the recruitment. Today, his 3 sons are still farmers in the village.
Household contract management was implemented in the 80s when we had only fields of 2 to 3 mu. If we did not have any other work, it was hard. Many people called my father-in-law a true son of Zhou Danyi. He was incorruptible.
One of Zhou Chengda's sons is now a skilled mason. He farms during peak season and works as a mason around the country in the off-season. His father, Zhou Chengda, could not be more pleased.
Our ancestors and great-grandfathers were incorruptible officials. They did many good things for the people, for the masses, and these in turn also helped the nation. They never took any money away from the society they served, and also they channeled their salaries back into serving the public. Now, the spirit of giving has left a deep impression on me. I want to learn from my ancestors' examples. That's right. And pass on this lesson to my descendants.
Zhou Chengda feels excited whenever he recalls his ancestors' exemplary behavior. Opposite his house lies the old house of his ancestor Zhou Leqian. He truly admires Zhou Laqian for his honesty and purity. He recalls the stories of Zhou Laqian, who once did a lot of good as an official in Sichuan. Zhou Laqian was an awarded student during the Qing dynasty and once worked as the magistrate and chief of prefectures. He followed the saying, "I will die sunless if I embezzle a penny." During his term, he taught farmers to irrigate with ash soil in order to deal with pests and disease, thus garnering the locals' respect.
This is the portrait of my great-grandfather, Zhou Luqian. He did many good things for the people. When he was an official in Sichuan, when he died, he had no money to his name. And so the people of Sichuan pooled their funds to buy him a coffin and send him back.
Zhou Liqian was one of the many officials who came from Chu village. As written in the annals of Lingchuan County, the descendants of the Zhou family inherited Sir Lianxi's purity of character. The family is greatly praised in the book for having abided by the instructions left by Zhou Dunyi. It is for this reason that Chu Tower came to be known as the village of upright officials.
In ancient China, it was propriety, justice, honesty, and honor. These are the four cardinal principles of the country described in the Guanzi. If we liken a country to a stage, it would need four columns to support it. Whether or not you are an official, the issue of corruption is something that you will face, and resisting it is a moral imperative. There's a saying amongst Chinese scholars which says, "Take care of your feathers." When we see a bird fly past, we will say we like it if we see its feathers are clean. But who would say they like it if the bird has dirty feathers? Similarly, there is an old saying which says, "An incorruptible man does not accept handouts, and an honest patriot does not accept plunder." Many of us are familiar with the following story. Once, there was a man who became rather thirsty, and he came upon a spring. But there he saw a sign that read, "Dao Spring." Dao means bandit. And so the man refused to drink. He said he could not, lest others say that he had drunk water from the Dao Spring, or the spring of bandits. He then said he would never sully his own reputation by any means. Yes, he preferred to go on and continue to look for water elsewhere in order to save his reputation.
Today, Changtuo Village is the center of incorruptible education in Lingchuan County. More and more villagers are returning to worship their ancestors. Many are proud to be descendants of the Zhou family as well. Zhou Yulin's father is from the village. His parents lived here during the Second Sino-Japanese War and later settled in Guilin. Even so, Zhou Yulin's father would tell him many stories about Changtuo Village. Today, he and his mother finally get to see the only existing copy of the genealogy of the Zhou family.
Here is Wang Xiu. Here is the fourth ancestor, Ding Bang. And the 11th, Lo Qi. This is a corruption-free village. The family, the tradition must be upheld from generation to generation. We are descendants of Zhou Dunyi, after all. We are his children. We must never shame our ancestors. Therefore, we must remember their instructions, that's right, and remember to always practice them in our daily lives, such that we can best fulfill our duties.
Zhou Yulin often returns to Changtuo with his mother to worship his father and relive the days when they once lived there. Changtuo Village lies in Guilin in northern Guangxi. The Lijiang River watershed provides a spectacular view. From the stone bridge at the village entrance, one can see the shadowy ridge of a mountain.
There's a mountain close by, and some say it even resembles a pen holder. Then there's the hill beside it. It looks like an official seal. You see? The villagers see these shapes in the mountains and hills, and that subliminally inspires confidence.
The people in Changtuo say that their village produces scholars and officials. But scholar or not, one always needs to have this mountain at one's back. And that mountain is always green and never changing. Zhou elders often remind descendants that they must remain pure and incorruptible. That is the greatest proverbial mountain one can ever rely on. This principle of purity must always be practiced in order to enjoy success and a good reputation. The Zhou family integrate this principle of purity into their daily lives. Zhou Mohan turns 1 month old today. His family has been up and about since early morning. According to village rules, a grandmother must hold her grandchild to worship in the 4 directions.
The elders of our family were always particular about how it was they carried and behaved themselves. They cared about these things. We, as their descendants, must remember to honor their traditions and think about how we behave as well.
A haircut is customary in an infant's 1-month ceremony. Some of the cut hair is placed and folded in red paper. The infant's parents carry the red parcel around the village. Afterwards comes the highlight of the ceremony. Zhou Mohan's father looks for a healthy section of bamboo, and there hangs the small parcel. The Zhou family believe that the hair will rise with the bamboo, and when the baby grows up, he'll be modest and forceful as the bamboo. From a young age, children in Chu Tower village are taught that purity brings honor. It is believed that this principle, along with many other family principles, will keep children grounded and will serve them well wherever they may go. For these villagers, family values and rules passed on from ancestors are given great importance. It is for this reason that the people in Chu Tower village are happy and peaceful.
乡愁是慈母手中的那根丝线，缝缝补补的岁月还那么好看。乡愁是老家屋顶上那里炊烟，远远近近的呼唤还那么温暖。乡愁是故乡门前的那条小河，活蹦乱跳的童年在心中撒欢。乡愁是老家树冠上那只鸟窝，岁岁年年的梦里总能孵化春天。记住乡愁，只有一轮明月，你就记住了梦的来源。记住乡愁，只有一生情怀，你就拨动了思念的心弦。乡愁是抓不住回不去的从前，忘了告别的变迁，像风筝断了线。乡愁是剪不断理还乱的怀念，唱在歌里，醉在酒里，越久